GingerGM.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a lesson with a Grandmaster. So I was getting a bit confused there. I know that I did the impronounceable gambit the other day. I had a little look at it. I've got more detail on it, which I was going to share with you, but I think we'll have a fresh start, and I will show you basically my preparation, what I play in basically in the King's Gambit, so you can learn basically what I do in the King's Gambit. Now, I think the King's Gambit is a perfectly okay opening. I think it's a lot of fun to play at all levels, and it's one of those openings which has become less and less popular because obviously I say all levels. Okay, let me be honest. Over 2600, I think it can be a little bit dodgy at times against incredibly well prepared and strong players because people have found good ways to defend. And I think nowadays when you're playing a gambit in the opening, you should really be trying to get equality even with white, but most openings now are equal, and if you can play the King's Gambit and get equality, an equal position but a fun position, I think that's absolutely fine because you'll understand the position more than your opponent, having analysed it before. So that's what I'm going to try to share with you now, my sort of expertise in the King's Gambit. So hello to everyone in the chat. Let's say hello. Hello to Fiona. I hope you're doing all right. Maybe we can have a quick chat after this, Fiona. I keep meaning to. I had this migraine, as I've told people before last time, which really I couldn't do anything. It's all gone now, thankfully. But maybe we can have a chat, Fiona, if you're about another day by day, possibly, if you're still here. And hello to everyone else. So Yobius, haven't seen you around for a while, Yobius. So hello, Yobius. And thank you for the donation there, Chris. That's very generous. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you for the donation. That's nice. People asking about the wing gambit, and we're bringing out a new DVD quite soon. I mean, loads of other things have come up, but one of GingerGM's next DVDs is going to be called Grandmaster Gambits, and it's going to be a DVD on E4 and multiple gambit lines you can play. And one line I cover there is wing gambits with B4 in that DVD, which is very interesting. So I've still got to finish that off. That DVD, and it's some of the film is a bit old now, so I want to re-go over it, make sure it's good quality. But I think that'd be a really exciting DVD. And Alex Lopez, Fiona's boyfriend, does a chapter on E4, E5, and I have to say, off the top of my head, I can't even remember what he suggests, Fiona. I think he suggests, because Alex helped film it, Fiona's filmed a bit for it, David Howe's filmed a bit for this DVD, so there's loads of different people who have filmed for this. I think it is over a year ago now. It's crazy, isn't it? Bloody hell, why haven't we got it out? I think what Alex recommends is, let me get this right, does he recommend D4 here, the nutter? I think he recommends D4 here, the lunatic. Something like this, in this position, and a very interesting gambit move. So I do remember a bit of it. So that's going to be a very interesting DVD when it comes out. It's going to be a repertoire you can play with E4, and we're going to try to find gambit lines against every black opening. And I think, you know, they're all quite sound. Then knight f6 and d4. Oh, castles first. Okay, I nearly had it right. Sophia, I can't believe this is a first. You really should take note of this. This is absolutely a first in my lifetime. Fiona reminding me or telling me about openings. I can't. Has it really become this? Has my life really become that? Oh my words. I can't believe it. That's one for the books. And Fiona is saying after either knight f6 or bishop c5, it doesn't matter. You castle first. That's it. And then here, and then you play this very interesting move here. And Alex does a very great 1 hour on this move. And you can also get it if knight f6 is played first, castles, and then bishop c5. You can also play d4 here, I think, something like that. So there we go. There we go. Well, very nice to see that someone wants to get banned. So my wish is Yorker banned. There we go. I always love banning people. Isn't it so much fun? Isn't it so much fun to have a little bit of banning going on? Not even original. I mean, if you're going to spam the chat, at least try to be original. Have a little bit of wit about you. You know, I hate spammers who are just not even original. I mean, come on. You know, go back to your mother's basement is all I can say. So anyway, what we're going to do today, I will show you what I play, and I still have great results of this with e4 and f4 in the King's Gambit. So I'm going to give you a little lesson on this. I will just show you one game that I had if I switch the board around. With the, what's it called, the Gambit I can't pronounce, the Fajarovich Gambit. And I don't know if I showed this before, but I was trying this Gambit out online, and I've played many games on chess.com now with the following Gambit, and that is this move e5, pawn takes knight e4. And I did a little lesson on this before, and I may have showed this game previously, but I just wanted to show it again in case you didn't see it. Fajarovich Gambit, and this is probably not sound, but I recommend you all give this a go. It's loads of fun to play. I'm enjoying myself so much just by playing this Gambit. The way I play, I always try to play d6, encourage my opponent to take there and just take with my bishop. And as I said in the last lesson, what I'm trying to do is basically take with the bishop here, knight here, bishop here, queen f6, castles queen side, and then push these pawns. So I've got a little test for you. It's a load of fun, Yobius. A load of fun. It really is. And let's say knight f3. I'm just going to show you this game I had against M. Izat, who's about 2600 online. What books, resources? Well, I think I'm going to make something on this. This might be Grandmaster Gambits number 2. So wait for us, because there's not that much on this. I've brought, what I do whenever I'm preparing an opening, I buy all the books that I can on that opening. I look at everything I can find online. I read the books. I can read the chess books quite quickly. I know if they're good books or bad books. On this opening, there's not many good books. Let's just put it that way. There's not much good resources out there. But I'm just going to show you the way I play this. Now, like I said, I always play for d6. And this is my preferred way of playing. And I just want to show you this game where everything worked right. So just in case you want to give this a go, my opponent played knight here. And now I just developed bishop f5, a3, which is a waste of time. Now, I did show this the other day, but I want to just see if anyone remembers the tactic. Knight c6, quick development. And I want my opponent to take here, otherwise I'm going to win my pawn back with a good position. And now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces developed. And this is really interesting way to play. My queen is coming to either e7 or f6, depending. They both have their points. My opponent took on e4 here, playing g3. And now I thought b4 is worth stopping. And the reason you want to move your queen is so that you can castle. I could have castled here, but I pushed Harry instead. Oh yes, hello Chris. How you doing, Chris? Hopefully you're doing right. Yeah, the other idea is indeed, in some positions you threaten knight f2 and bishop takes here. That's a very common trick as well. Let's go back to that position. I just want to I'll show that at the end. And I had a game like this which went h4. It was only a 3-minute game, but it was quite a fun game. And we got the following position. I just want to see if anyone can spot the tactic in a minute. My opponent's bishop is trapped, but he now creates some problems with this. But I can go knight e5. He plays f4. He plays c5. So first of all, what do you think is a good move for black in this position? There might be more than one good move, actually. But anyone... no. Martin, you are right. There are improvements earlier on, but I just think it's fun to try out new things. And I'm going to have a look at those in more detail, those opening ones. But you're right. White, don't get me wrong, should be better in this opening. There's no doubt about it. But my results in Blitz are phenomenal in this. Now, if you're going to suggest a move, please have a follow-up. Now, maybe rook takes h4 was actually quite good, and then f3. But maybe my opponent can defend with bishop f1. For example, takes here, here. Can he defend with this move? Maybe he's just about defending here, even though this looks very scary with knight g4. Maybe this is winning. Okay, well, it was a blitz game. I took on c5. And now my opponent cannot take on c5 because this wins the queen, as some of you are pointing out. So my opponent now played bishop to e4, attacking my queen. So what did I play here? Anyone? Let's see if you can spot my moves. Can you play like the GingerGM, which is very worrying? What is another good move to play here? What should I do here? And remember, this is a very useful pin on the queen. Well done, ringed. Well done, Ol Solo Choyoniska. Bishop takes f2. And the point of this move is that if king takes bishop, then knight g4 check now wins the queen. Now Aldo's also suggesting knight to f3 check. And that did not occur to me, and it's actually a very interesting move. The idea of bishop takes, then you go here. Just wondering, maybe with this move, Aldo, black... I don't know. This is another interesting way to play. Okay, I'll show you the game because it was also okay. Now, my opponent can't take this, so he went king g2, and now I kept attacking, f3 check. And after king h1, what did I play here? There's quite a lot of material for the queen. You're right there, maybe. I don't know if it's enough, though, Mary. Interesting, interesting. That was probably also another good move. When is Grandmaster Gambits expected? Well, I really hope by the end of next week. I've got one more project. Well, I've got loads of projects I'm working on, but I will try to get it finished. But I only want to release stuff when it's excellent quality. That's, I don't want to rush. I'd rather wait a month to release something and rush it out. So I also want to add some more chapters to the Grandmaster Gambits DVD. So it might be a week or two, but Okay, so what should I play here? Well, queen to this square is met by queen takes e5 check. And I think white has at least a perpetual there. Hello, Desert Storm. Hope you're doing all right. And there's a much better move which Merry Hatman has now found even. And it is rook takes h4. And this is what happened in the game. Now try to work out what happens if my queen is taken here. What happens if the queen is taken? And this is how the game ended. Black can force checkmate. Can any of you solve this? What's the Stafford Gambit? Boozy 005. What is the Stafford Gambit? Anyone? I don't even know what that is. Well done, ringed. And remember, I don't want you just to tell me one move. You've got to tell me the whole sequence of moves. Finding one move is not good enough. You've got to go for the whole variation. It's the Stafford where you take... I don't know what the Stafford is. I can Google it, but I'm not sure. In the petrol. Okay, but what line is it? I don't know all names off by heart. I don't think names are that important, to be honest. Knight f3... well, no, because the Grandmaster Gambits is only, as I said earlier, a repertoire for white after e4. If I do it for all colours, it gets very confusing. So I've made this DVD that's coming out just when you play one e4. And it's everything you want to know from the white side, the side of the white pieces. So it's not including any black gambits. That might come later. Yes, well, thanks, Robert, for clarifying it. Yeah, so the move here... after bishop takes f5, that happened in the game, because now that my opponent's king cannot escape one of these lines, is rook takes h2 check. And it's going to be checkmate. And if you haven't solved this yet, keep trying to find the solution. And the way the game did now end. My opponent probably missed one key move. Is king takes here, and now the rook comes here, check. And I think he missed my next move in this position, which was knight to g4 check. And now he resigns because he can't take that knight. He has to go here, and after this one, it's checkmate. So that was quite a fun game I had in the Farasovich Gambit, or whatever it's called. So anyway, but what we're going to do today, let's go back, and I'm going to start my lesson now on the King's Gambit. And I'm just going to show you now. Oh no, I did say before I start the lesson on the King's Gambit, as Chris Baker has reminded me, that in this Gambit line, one trick that I think is worth you knowing is that in the position, let's say after d6, this is a move which I prefer, and you're going to win loads of games from this. So try to remember this little sequence. Now, I would like to say if white doesn't go c4, you can't play this Gambit, so you have to learn something else. But most players play c4, and then this is the Budapest moving on the knight here, but this is the more risky Gambit. And I always like this idea of playing d6. Now, there's a really dangerous trick involved with this. Let's say that white takes on d6, and now you get your bishop out, so you're developing quickly. And let's say that white plays a move like a3, which white often plays to stop some kind of check, or even g3. Let's say g3, it's the same trick. How can black gain a winning position? Then, you know, black is already completely winning here. Anyone see a very nice little tactic? And again, these are tricky lines. Like I said, this opening is not entirely sound, but it's a lot of fun. And well done, Ringed. Anyone else? Give me the follow-up, people. You know, try to give me more than one move if you can. Yes, the common trick worth remembering here, well, actually, you take on g3 straight away, Ringed. This move, because you're trying to get the king away from the queen, and after king takes here, well, actually, this is a nice idea, but this is even quicker. Bishop takes g3, check. And next move, we're going to win the queen. So this is, I suppose this way you win an extra pawn, Ringed. You get the extra pawn on g3. Ringed is actually suggesting a line which I haven't seen here, which is very nice. Check here. And then after king here, this is another way you can win the queen. So this is or maybe knight d4 is a way. But yeah, this is a nice trick. So I just wanted to include that as well. Okay, right, so let's move on to the King's Gambit. So the King's Gambit is an opening that you play against e5, and it's probably the most romantic opening of all openings with white. Now, if you're an e4 player, many of your opponents will play e5 against you, and there's many ways you can play against this. Now, nowadays, what most people do, they play knight to f3, and they either put their bishop here or here, and you generally nowadays get quite long maneuvering games. So, for example, bishop here, like I say, Grandmaster Gambits will cover some exciting ideas here, but you get long games, and this is the same with this. Now, the King's Gambit, which is, like I said, probably the most romantic opening of them all. And what I mean by that is, this has been played by Morphy, by all the old legends, you know, name Marshall, all the people 150 years ago used to play f4, and there's some of the best ever games in chess have been played with f4. Now, it's not seen at top level now because black generally has many ways to get equality, but I'm just looking. I'm going to look at your lines now. There are a couple of, what can black do? Well, black either accepts the gambit or black declines the gambit. Now, the way I play it after pawn takes f4, I play what Ringed actually says. I play bishop c4. And there's a bit of history behind this move. So I think we'll look at what happens if black accepts the gambit first. Now, there are two moves to play after this move. You can either play knight f3, which is the more traditional way of playing, or you can play bishop c4. Now, I prefer bishop c4 because it avoids these lines where black moves the g-pawn and attacks your knight quickly. And bishop c4 gains some very exciting positions. Now, I see that Ringed says this is bad because of knight to c6. Now, funnily enough, knight to c6 is the main suggestion nowadays, because it's suggested by, again, like I say, whenever I'm looking at openings, I buy all the books on it or do my research, and it's suggested by Jonathan Shaw in his book The Complete King's Gambit. But if you play bishop c4, this is not the move that most players will play, and I know this from playing it online. Now, let me just show you some of the lines that can happen. Now, in this position, I don't think b5 here. I mean, there was a famous story with b5 Plocrux in this position. In the 1993 World Championships between Nigel Short and Garry Kasparov, which Garry Kasparov won, they did a rapid play tournament afterwards. But in the rapid play tournament, they had to start from particular positions. And this is one position that they had to start from, with Nigel Short having the white pieces and Garry Kasparov having the black pieces. So it's kind of like still a competitive match, but with pre-arranged starting positions. And you know what? And you know what Garry said? Garry with the black pieces here was extremely upset. He basically pulled a strop, as Garry does, and he basically said, "I don't want to play this shit, because it's absolutely rubbish and losing for black. Why are you giving me a starting position where I'm completely lost?" And in the end, he agreed to play, but Nigel won one of the only games of that competition in this line. And I think you can safely just take it. I mean, at the end of the day, what does this gambit do? It only gives black one tempo, but you've got more central pawns, and you can have a look. You can have a look at that game if you want to look at b5. No one's played b5 against me. I don't think it's a particularly scary move. Not something to worry about, really. You can just take the pawn. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's my feeling. But let me just show you, first of all, what you should be trying to do here. It's decent enough, Plocrux. I agree, but I think white is better after that move. And I agree with Garry that, you know, it is. You don't want to have a starting position where you're just worse generally. Now, what you want to do here as white, the reason you haven't moved your knight to this square, as I've said, is that the lines with g5 are much weaker now for black. Now, someone mentioned Bobby Fischer earlier, and Bobby Fischer basically said, oh, g5 is a refutation of the King's Gambit. But Bobby Fischer was talking about the lines when the knight comes to f3. And he didn't really talk about this move a lot. It was actually David Bronstein who said, if you want to play for a win with the King's Gambit, you should move your bishop to c4. And the problem with g5 now is that because you haven't got your knight on this square, g5 is actually quite a bad move in this position, because you can just play h4 and you can undermine these pawns here. And in this position, g4 is just a bad move because you don't attack the knight on f3 anymore. You have to be a little bit careful here as white, because if you take this one, d5, maybe you can still take here with this check, but then bishop d6 looks strong for black. But what I would play, if g4, I would just play d4 now. And this is the kind of position you're going for. In the King's Gambit, you're going for great central control and an attack against f7 with this bishop. And these pawns, both of these pawns, are now very weak. So this is already a good position for white. So that's why I prefer this bishop c4 move, because it avoids g5, g4. Now let me just show you. We might have to do the decline King's Gambit another day, because only so much we can fit into this lesson. I mean, the old main line used to be a line where black tried d5. I think Fischer's line was with g5, g4 at some moment. That's as far as I remember. That is certainly the refutation. g5, g4, hitting the knight on f3 was what Fischer said. I mean, I think that's correct. That is known anyway to nowadays be the main problem with knight to f3, refutation. Now the old main line used to be with black trying to play for d5, but I really like these positions for white, and I think the old main line is just bad for black. So you can either play knight to f6 or c6 first. So let's say black plays knight to f6. Now e5 is a mistake here. You avoid playing this move. Why do you avoid playing this move? What can black play in this position? What can black play? What should black nearly always play if the pawn comes to e5? What should black play here? What should black do against this move? There's a very common idea to meet this one. Nope. Aldo completely correct. Ringed completely correct. The way to meet this move is always to counter strike in the center with d5. And if black plays this move d5, black is generally always, I would say, better. I would say better here. So this is something to bear in mind. If you play e5 too soon with the bishop on c4, black will counter strike with d5, which is known to be a good response. So you don't want to do that. And with this move, black is threatening the pawn, threatening d5. So you just simply develop and you try to fight against d5 and you try to defend your pawn. And in this position, the old main line used to be c6, preparing to play d5. And I think this is a very good demonstration of white's potential in this line. And again, if you go e5, they play d5 and black is better. So you don't want to do this. The move you should play is d4. And this is generally the follow-up in this variation. Get your pawns in the center. And it was Joseph Gallagher, actually. Joseph Gallagher is a grandmaster from England. And he wrote one of the first ever books on the King's Gambit. He now lives in Switzerland in his 50s, I think. And him and Grandmaster Mark Headman from England used to play the King's Gambit in nearly all of their games. And it was Joseph Gallagher who basically told me that the King's Gambit, actually, the time he won most of his games of white was not through brilliant attacks. It was when he could simply win his pawn back and then just have a better position because of the central pawns. Because these pawns, if you ever win your pawn back, you've got a much better center than your opponent. And if you can get castled, you also have pressure on the f-file. So positionally speaking, the King's Gambit is quite good. Now, Aldo did mention that d5 is a move here. It is a move, but it's not a particularly good move, I think. I mean, you can just go now, knight takes d5. And this move, you get your pawn back. There are some lines here. You can't take here because of queen e2, and this would be winning a piece, d3 coming up. And there are some lines here where black takes here and then plays some idea with c6. But these positions I find very bad for black because you still got this weak pawn and white's center is very, very strong. I don't like these positions for black. So the old main line, let's look at that first, is c6, trying to play d5. And now you play d4. And now black must play d5 here, because otherwise we're going to take that pawn back. And now we take on d5. Black takes back. And where do we put our bishop now? We put our bishop on b3, because we want to keep the pressure against this pawn, which is quite weak. And here, our general idea, the move I like, is putting my knight on e2 and just winning this pawn back with a very, very good position. And I've had this in quite a lot of games, and I really think white's just better here. For example, let's say black defends this pawn. Remember, if he ever plays g5, what move should you be aiming to play here? What move should you play here as white? One of the reasons we haven't developed our knight. Let's just see if you're paying attention. Thank you for the cheer. Being Counter-Strike. Well done, Ebby. Well done, everyone who is suggesting h4. h4 is the way to attack g5. Definitely. Because if this pawn moves now, we can take on f4. And also, where does black's king go now? White's king can try to castle this way. Now, bishop g4 is a move that has been played. there's a couple of things you can do. You can simply now put your knight on f3. There's no problem because you're trying to castle this way. Not a problem at all. And the main line, though, let me just show you, is bishop here. And you can also, by the way, put your... I like putting my knight on e2 and trying to win this pawn back. And I've won many games like this. Let's say black plays this. We play h4 again. Happy days. The main line is castling. And now if we take here too soon, black might be able to attack us on the e file. So I always castle kingside now. Bean Counter-Strike, thank you for the support for the channel. Very kind of you to do that. Thank you very much. Yeah, very, very generous of you there. Thank you so much. And in this position, if we win this pawn back, white has a fantastic game. And I've had this kind of thing many times. White is better now because white might well win the pawn on d5. White has the open f file to attack on. You can go knight h5, try to get rid of the defender of the black king. The bishop can come to g5. This is a really nice attacking position here. So this is quite good. I mean, I think that's all you need to know about the main line. And this, after bishop c4, I used to have many games where black would play this. The same goes with c6. You play knight c3. If d5, you just take it, say thank you, I've won a pawn, I'm not worried. If black goes knight here, what you play d4. If they go g5, you always go h4. If they go d5, you take it. And I think bishop b3 is best. Keep the pressure on that pawn with the general idea of playing knight on g to e2 and castling kingside. Now, if we go back to other lines, we'll come to knight c6 at the end. Someone earlier recommended queen h4 check. Now, queen h4 check is the move that David Howe played against me in the British Championships. I don't know how many years ago. It was probably 10 years ago. And I was winning that game as white in this line against David Howe's, like, one of the very strong player, 2700, and unfortunately the game only ended in a draw, and I really threw away my chance of winning the British Championships that year. But this check is a lot. It looks very scary because you have to move your king. But the problem is for black, this queen is now a target, so we are going to gain tempo to attack this queen. So we're either going to play knight to f3, which is the most natural move, or as Seralan Donut, sorry if I said that wrong, says, I'll come back to that line in a second. I'm trying to look at your questions while I'm progressing. To answer your question, Buggles Senpei, you just take with the G pawn and you castle queenside to answer your question there. Sorry, I will go back to that before we move on to this position. I like to cover as many questions as you have. And there was a question here. What happens if f3 is played? Now f3 is played, you simply take here and now you try to castle queenside. For example, black castles, bishop g5, getting a piece out of the way, and we're going to go queen d2, castles queenside, rook on g1, checkmate the black king. There we go. That's the simple answer to your question. So what about this queen h4 check that someone was asking about? Well, after king f1, I'll just show you what happened in my game against David Howe. It went knight to c6, and now I played d4. Now let's remember, this is the whole point of the opening. You want to put both of these pawns in the center to control these squares here, all of these squares, and so that your bishop can start to attack this pawn. Now, in this position, knight to f3 and bishop takes f4 is nearly playable. So David Howe played g5 now, and now this makes a lot more sense because I can't play h4 anymore. The queen's on that square. Now, what I did against David Howe, I did not go knight to f3, which I think is okay. I went knight to c3, and now we see another problem with black's queen with black's queen on h4. The problem here is it weakens c7. So I can, given a chance, go for knight to d5, knight to b5, and this is probably going to force my opponent to move his king. So David actually played, if I'm right in thinking, d6, and another reason of putting my knight here is to defend e4, and once I've got the knight here defending this pawn, there's now a very strong plan that I played here against David. And I think this is the right position. It might have actually been. Let me get this right. Let me just remember what David played. I want to make sure I get this right, guys. I think David might not have played this one. David might have played something like knight to it. Did he go knight to a6 first? No, I think it did. I think it was this move. Okay, but it's a very interesting idea here. Jen's chess, you have it right. You can always go knight to f3, and you can always play knight in here. But there's another idea that I want you to try and remember in certain situations when the queen is on this square. And Jen's chess has got it right. A very interesting idea here, which looks suicidal, is g3. Now, this looks absolutely suicidal. But as Cyril and Donut says, and this is the key thing, after pawn takes here, you now play this move. And this often leads to very fun positions. Now, I'm not sure if it's this particular position, but this is the idea to remember. And David now realized if he took here, I get a very big initiative. He probably has to swap queens off. Okay, the queen's come off, but after bishop takes here, I'm a pawn down, and I have very good play now with lots of pieces coming into the position, lots of open files. My opponent very bad developed. So I think David actually played queen. What did he do? He took first, king g2, and another reason you want your knight here, you don't want to run into queen takes e4. If bishop to here check, well, you can simply move your king. I'm still attacking the queen. This is fine. The king is absolutely safe on this square. To answer your question, Nabot, I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. But if I do miss your question out, you know, it's not so easy. And David actually went in this position. I think he went queen h6, and now after pawn takes here, he had to move his queen again, and he went queen here. Now, in actual fact, I think what I did against David, this is a very exciting line, because now you can go like knight here, and look, you've got typical development. I think what I did against David, I was a bit crafty, and I think after this move, d6, at some point, I think I played queen d2, and I forced him to play g5, and then we had some line like this, where only now did I play this move. But anyway, this is a line worth remembering against queen h4. And of course, as we've only got about an hour for this lesson, I'm not going to go into every variation as deep as we can. This is going to be our starting point. But queen h4 is not a problem, because you're going to gain a lot of tempo against that queen. And the other thing to remember is to bring your knight quickly into d5 to attack c7. So what else can black play? Well, another line that black tries to do is c6, trying to go for d5. So what do we play here? Let's just make sure you're all awake still. What do you play here? We just looked at this line. What should you do in this position? No, you don't play d4 yet, because if you play d4 here, d5, it might transpose the same thing, but you haven't played this move. Maybe this is okay, but I don't know. I would stick with knight to c3. Develop a piece. Try to stop d5 for now. This is the best move order, because now if knight to f6, now you go d4. Now a line that a lot of people play against me here is knight to e7. And the idea of this again is to play d5. So there's a couple of ideas here in this position. What would you play now? I'll just give you all a chance to have a look at this position. Imagine you're white here. What could you play now in this position? Just give you a chance, because the best way to learn in chess, obviously listening to a strong player talk about an opening is a good way to learn, but if you can think for yourselves and think, what would I play, that is an even better way to play. Well, the best move here, you can play d4 when positions are similar to before, but now that there's nothing defending h5, remember, you want to play as aggressively as you can in this opening. Queen to h5 is a much better move, because if d5 now, well, we can simply win that pawn, and as I said before, winning this pawn can be very, very nice. We might even have knight f6 and queen takes f7 mating. Let me just think if that's mate. Let's have a look at this line. I've got a crazy line here. Let's say knight to c6. Can we play this? Check, takes, check here, and now something like d4. This is the typical King's Gambit attack. We want to check here and take here with check. I don't know. You can see how much fun you can have in some of these lines. Now, obviously, you're going to have to work these things out for yourself when you're playing. But I've played this before in a game against an international master. I got a winning position very quickly. As Aldo says, if g6 here, we can play like a beginner. We can put the queen on e5, attacking the rook, and already black is in serious trouble. He has to go rook here, and now I would imagine simply queen takes f4, getting the pawn back is better for white, but maybe there's an even better move. I'd love to get a knight to one of these two squares. You know, imagine that, but that's not so easy. So maybe just queen takes f4. Okay, hello to, yeah, may the gambits be with me. Well, they all are. They all are. They're always with me, the gambits. Okay, so this position already after queen h5 is good. Now, what most people do here is knight here, trying to exchange queens. Whenever your opponent plays a move, look what their idea is. But you simply go knight to f3, stopping this idea, and you've got such great development here. With d4 coming, maybe you can start an attack with knight to one of these two squares. This is another good line. So let's go back. We've nearly covered all lines so far. So after e4, e5, f4 takes bishop c4. Now someone did ask about knight to f6, knight here, and bishop b4. Now, obviously, you know, when I've done work on these openings, and I've done a lot of work on chess in my 30 years. When I release products on them, it's always the cutting edge. But me trying to remember all the variations in my mind, I don't always get them right. I sometimes get them wrong, but I know the ideas. So against bishop b4, I know that the best idea here is a very weird idea. But I had this and I won against Grandmaster Jonathan Parker with knight to e2. And I found this to be a very good response. I just want a castle, and I actually just want to take on f4 with my knight. And I think against Jonathan Parker, let me get this right now, guys. It went castles, and I simply castled, and now he played knight takes e4. Now, if he doesn't play this move, I'm going to win my pawn back. And generally, if you ever win this pawn back, just look at that position. White has a fantastic attack because all this pressure on the f-file is happening. At some point, you will get your bishop out to g5. And this knight on e2 can even come to h5. So there's many ways to attack. Now, I certainly don't want to play a3. I don't think in this position, because maybe that helps black. I mean, this is one of my own little lines, this, and Jonathan Parker now took here, which is the best move, because any other move I'm going to take here with a big attack in the position. And he took here, and this was a very crafty idea, and the point is, if I take now, he goes d5, and this d5 move should guarantee black a better game. But now I simply played knight takes f4. And this is a very interesting way to play against an early bishop b4, because the queen is coming over towards the king. You often have knight to d5. In actual fact, I think one very critical line. You've got the F file. You're only one pawn down. Look at black's development over here. Black has to do something with his knight now because I'm threatening to take this one because I'm controlling d5. So if you went knight c6, try and develop, you lose a piece. I just take here, and now my knight is here. I can take this one. I'm a piece up. So black has to spend another move with his knight. So I think taking here is as good as ever. And now we take with the d pawn because we're going for as quick development as possible. We are a pawn down here. Black should gain at least one tempo with a check. And this position is something I've analysed and found to be really, really good for white. The queen is coming here, attacking the bishop, attacking f7. Black's best move might be c6. And now, this is where I was just saying earlier about my memory. I think I came up with a novelty here, which I think is really interesting. If black is able to play d5, he might be okay. So we always want to try to stop our opponent's ideas. And this is like typical King's Gambit. And I think I'd have to check this with the computer again before fully suggesting it. But what move do you think white can maybe now play? And, you know, if you're going to play the King's Gambit, you're going to have to play like a lunatic now and again. Let's remember that. You play the King's Gambit to be a romantic attacking player. So don't be afraid to sacrifice occasionally. Yes, you're right, Mary. And this is the move I came up with, knight d5. And the idea here is to actually play knight to f6 check and give the knight up on that square. And this is I thought a beautiful idea, which I think let me check it with the computer now. I hope the computer doesn't. Oh, is it going to tell me I'm an idiot now? I hope it doesn't mess up all the research we've got there. Oh, I have to find my bloody variation now, don't I? Okay, let's see. Let's just see what it says about that line. Not knight c6. We're going for knight here. Knight, no, not there. We're going here. Bishop b4. Let's just see what the computer says. I'll make the screen bigger for you about this sacrifice because I hope I've got this right. So knight takes here, knight takes here, here, check, here, knight d5. Let's just put it, how do we put it on the computer? How do we put it? Run report. I've never done this before, so now it's gone right back to position. This is starting to piss me off. This is starting to annoy me. Where was that line again? I mean, we don't need to. Okay, here it is. And let's just see. Is it gonna? Okay, I'll just resize the thing just so we can see. Oh, look at this. Look what the computer says. The computer says that this move is, if this is working correctly, which I'm assuming it is, hopefully, is a draw. But I don't know if this is working properly. Anyway, I think I'm safe in saying when I looked at this, I was very confident in it. And the point is, if you take here, now queen takes here, attacking the bishop, attacking f7, and there's some beautiful lines here. I don't think it is just equal, Aldo. I'm not sure. I think the more you run it, the more you might be surprised. In actual fact, I think it's winning for white. And now, if you can win the bishop here, great. And if the bishop moves, you've got this move, and this is like crushing, I think. And I think I had one game online which went like this. And now, did I play bishop h6? I'm kind of hoping I did. But there might bishop. I think this is now the move. Is this the move? I'd like to think this. And now look at this. Look at this line. Pawn takes here. Rook e1. I want to come into e8. Let's just see. And after this move, what is the winning move here for white? Let's just see if you can get this. And this is the kind of fun that you can have. I'm just putting one line on the board. You know, maybe there's other lines. But what is the line here? Well done, ringed. Actually, bishop d3 allows queen g8. Might be able to defend. But this move is crushing. And the point is, if queen takes, queen g8, checkmate. Oh, it'd be nice to get that in a game, wouldn't it? And if knight takes, queen f6, checkmate. Oh, yes, please. And there's no way to stop the attack on these two squares, I feel, yeah? And all these checkmates. So that's quite a nice line, yeah? Okay, so if you can't take the knight, I remember when I found this idea, and it wasn't suggested by the computers, I found this over the board, I thought d6 was the best way to defend, but then the computer gives this move as equals, but the more you leave it on the computer, the more it works out that white is actually winning. And the point here is, yes, you sacrifice the piece again. It has to be taken. The queen flies over. And with a bishop coming here, a bishop coming in, maybe a rook coming around, I don't think there's any way black can survive. So this is the main idea is bishop here, checkmate on h7. So another really fun variation in the King's Gambit. Now, if you have just joined the stream today, by the way, I will put this on YouTube as well, this lesson in the King's Gambit. We are coming to knight to c6 ringed. I think we've pretty much covered most of the other variations, and what I'm looking at today is the King's Gambit accepted. I don't have time to look at the other ones. What I will say, I'm just going to give you one tip. The Albion counter gambit is we can do a whole new lesson on this. The Albion counter gambit is a very intriguing idea, and the suggestion, just to quickly show you what I'd play against this, I would take on d5, and this is the main line. There are other lines. I want to stop this check in this position, so I go here, and now knight to f6 is not the the Falk beer. That's right, not the Albion counter. That's my dyslexia coming in again. Get my words mixed up. And now after knight c3, knight takes d5. This is considered to be a line, but actually bishop c4 here is what I play. And this I think it's only been played a couple of times, and this is a very interesting idea. And there's two ideas behind this. One is if the knight takes knight, you take here and you actually exchange queens. And the reason you exchange queens is you've still got a lot of pressure against the king. You want to take the pawn on f4, so bishop here, you go check, king f8, and now you go knight e5. And I think this position offers white some chances of an advantage. So this is a very secret line that no one plays. And the other idea that I found in this, which is a lot of fun to play, is that if black tries to defend the knight on this square, I now play queen e2. And I had a game actually against Battersea. I can't remember the player I played in Battersea, Aldo, but that went bishop e7. And no, sorry, it didn't go there because that's a mistake. It went here. Let me get this right. Sorry. Just got to see, this is where my memory, maybe it did go here. And then I went knight d4, hitting this one. And then it went knight takes c3, bishop takes here. Now again, if I can castle and win this pawn back, I'm doing very well. You might think I have a bad pawn structure. That's maybe true, but my knight is fantastic in the f-file. So bishop h4 check, and I had this against Battersea, where I now played g3. And this was crazy. Takes check, king e2, and after my opponent castled, I just went bishop e3, and next move I put my rook here, and this is a crazy ass position to play. Look at this, absolutely mental, yeah, with the knight coming here, rook attacking here, maybe the queen attacking there, rook attacking here. This is crazy, yeah. This is why the King's Gambit is so much fun. And a lot of these lines I'm showing you are quite secret. I mean, no one else has played them. But again, the computer might not always agree with this one. And this is a load of fun. And I beat a 2250. It was one of the better players in this line. And there are other lines you can play here, of course. But this is one of the fun games. And if you play the King's Gambit, you can enjoy playing this. No matter, the computer might say black's better, but that is with absolutely perfect defense, which is not going to be easy. So this is a really good shock value gambit. I'm trying to think. I won the game only five moves later against Battersea. I think it went something like this. Here, bishop d6, and now I think it went something like here. And was I now able to take on this one? This might have been the game that I had. I'm just trying to think how it ended. Could I take here? Takes check, king g8. Is this the line? I'm trying to think. There's at least a draw there. It might, I mean, it was quite a nice finish. That's all I can remember. I'm trying to find the win in this position. Where is the win in this position? Is this the right position? Looks so dangerous for black. Mid-hand. It was mid-hand, yeah. Yeah, rook takes here looks tempting. So I can't remember, but you can see how many white pieces are attacking, and I'm not going to go into all the positions. Maybe I'll have to find that game for next time. So if we go back to the opening, and we're mainly, I just wanted to throw that in there because it's one of the most popular lines. We've mainly covered most things now. Now I think the line that Aldo you might want to that you might have been getting mixed up with in this variation where they play here, and then you take here. I think the line you might have meant was d5 straight away. Now this is a counter gambit that black can play, but I don't have a lot of faith in it. And I think here you take with a bishop, knight here has been played, and then just knight c3. And if you get a chance to go d3, you're actually going to be a pawn up as white. So bishop b4 is the main move. And this is one position where you have to play an ending, but I think the ending's a little bit better for white after here. c6, you have to move the bishop. You take here, and now take here. And I think it's, if you take here straight away, rook e1 is a very nasty pin. Castles, take here. And this is an ending that I think Mickey Adams has played with black against Bacro, the French player. And I believe white's a little bit better with the two bishops here in an open position. And I think the best move here is actually rook e1. Because if you check on f2, king e2 now comes. And if the knight moves, you can often get your bishop here. And we want to put our king on f2. So one of the lines here goes knight here. And then I think, again, I can't remember everything. You put your king here. You put your king on one of these squares. Your rooks have lovely lines. You've got better development. In the ending, you've got the two bishops. So I think this might be the line you're thinking of, Aldo. Again, this is just from memory. So in this position, after bishop c4, I think the only line we haven't really covered now, again, against d6, what would I play here? I would just go d4. Because remember, our main idea is simply to win our pawn back with a big center. And if g5, what do you play against g5, guys? This is one reason I've left my knight here. I keep testing you on this, but I want to throw in the odd test here. What should white play against g5? Well done, Buggles. We play h4. And this is why I like the King's Gambit with the bishop here, because we destroy black's queen side. You can even move your queen over to h5 in these lines, which you can't do when there's a knight in the way. And now g4 would normally be attacking a knight here in the old lines, but in this line you just take here. So now we're going to come back to the main problem of this variation. And this is a move which originally I just did not believe, knight to c6. Now, I can't quite remember what I gave here. And this move was given by John Shaw in his King's Gambit book. And I haven't got the book handy, and I haven't looked at the book for a couple of years, so I'm going to have to try to do this from memory. But this move is actually meant to be black's best move, but black still has to be very careful here. Very, very careful. And I think I came up with some very interesting ideas here. And I think the main point of this move is if you now go d4, which we want to play, having the knight on c6 is a good developing move. I think now black has to be very careful, because if we can take this pawn back, we're going to be better. And there's only one move that black can play here, otherwise black's worse. So what should black now play? Let's see if you can remember this. And I'm not convinced that black's better in these lines, by the way. I think, yeah, well done, the manager. Black has to now play knight to f6, otherwise black is worse. And now if you play e5, let me test you, and what I tested you earlier on. What is the best move for black when you play e5 in these positions? Can everyone remember? Yeah, looks like most of you are remembering. D5 is the best counter-attack. Certainly, this is the best move. And generally in these positions, black is absolutely fine. And he is in this position. So this is black's main idea. And the other idea behind this move is that if you play knight to c3, which looks natural, now black can play bishop to b4. And I'm trying to remember my analysis here. And the problem is this knight gives him a little bit extra development in the center. not bishop b3. No bishop b3s have been played yet now. And this is okay for black. So I'm just trying to think now what I suggested after this move. So let me get this right. So I think the idea, one of the ideas I came up with, and I've got to remember now. Can you play knight c3 here? Was this another idea? Maybe knight c3 here is an idea. Let me just check. So I mean, I can't remember now. I'm going to have to do this in another lesson. So what I'll do, I think in another lesson, because I want to get this right, we've basically covered every move in this position. Every move that's a worry, except for knight c6. And knight c6 is meant to be the main idea. Now, I don't think you can go queen h5 here, because just g6, and you're covering e5. This is not working here. And I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, my memory's gone here, so I'm just going to have to check my research, and I'll come back with this one in another stream. Look, you've had 1 hour of tuition in the King's Gambit. That's not bad. That's a free lesson with all these secret lines that it's taken me a lifetime to work out for myself. You got a free lesson there, and I will try to finish this off next time. But I'm going to come back to this position and give you some fresh ideas here for the future. Is this a move? What would you play against this? Let me just see. I don't think I will refute knight to f6, knight c6, but if I find a way you can get an equal position against it, I'll be happy. I'll be happy if I get an equal position against this. So, but what would you play ringed after knight c3? I don't think it's queen h4, because I just moved my king and we get those lines we looked at before. We looked at these lines before where I go d4, and I showed this early on. This one. Okay, because I haven't gone d4. Okay. Yeah. Right, I'm going to have to come back to this then. So the next challenge for my next lesson, and I'm going to do a lesson once a week now, is to try to find a good line against knight c6. Now, I know I have looked at that before, and I found some interesting ideas. So I will come back to that later on, and we will have a look at that in the future, definitely. So I will give you something, but you've got a very good basis there to play the King's Gambit. And what's going on here? So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I'm going to call it a day now, and I hope you all have a good rest of the day. I will do that same lesson, I think, next Wednesday. So every Wednesday we're going to do lessons, and next Wednesday we will have a look at the rest of the King's Gambit, so you have a decent opening to play. So goodbye for now. I don't know, it seems to have